I'm standing on the campus of Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, actually at the veterinary school, in front of the gentle doctor, next to a gentle doctor, Dr. Scott Hurd, Associate Professor. First of all, Dr. Hurd, this veterinarian means a lot to you. Why don't you explain to us the general concept of the veterinarian, not only in taking care of animals, but assisting in providing a safe food supply?
Well, one of the things you can see, not so much in the statue, but in the mural behind, is the important role that veterinary medicine plays in all of human life, whether it be work stock or food animals. Gentle doctor, to me, typifies the role of a veterinarian today in our food supply, whether it be safe food or healthy animal production, welfare of the animals being raised for food. To me, it just is an icon of everything that is important to veterinarians and showing how that's important to people and public health.
As I travel this country, just listening to people in airports, just in general conversation, I don't know that anything has people a little more concerned about food safety than antibiotics.
Sure.
Antibiotics used in food animal production leading to concerns or safe food? Which way should we look at it?
Well, people are concerned because they think that antibiotics are being used in livestock for no good purpose. They think we're just pouring it into healthy animals so that they can grow faster. But that's not really the truth. What I've found is that only 50%, if we're talking about pigs, only 50% of farmers even use growth-promoting antibiotics, and they don't do it less than half the time, and they do it when it's needed. They know when pigs are going to expected to have problems, so they put antibiotics in the feed or in the water, mostly to prevent those problems. So the risk to human health, it takes a long chain of events to get from the farm to somebody getting sick, being treated with that specific antibiotic, and then failing to get better. You have to go through that long chain of events before there's really going to be public health harm. So when you boil it all down, the numbers are very small. The risk is very, very small.
In the bigger picture, it seems as though the word natural or organic conjures up these images of a safer and a better way to go. And yet I think we lose sight of the fact that E. coli 0157H7, a deadly pathogen, is organic and natural.
Right.
So how do we bridge that gap in looking at the science and technology through the use of tools like antibiotics improves our risk, so to speak, for safe food?
Right. Well, one of the things that really bothers me is the assumption that organic is somehow safer. Organic may be better in some people's minds for a number of reasons, but particularly if you put animals outside, they have more chance to interact with natural pathogens like E. coli, salmonella. If we talk pigs, there's toxoplasmosis and trichina as well. When animals are in confinement, they're not exposed to those pathogens and they can't bring them into the food chain.
So then we go into these scientific terms, which you just did, and then the average consumer says, oh my goodness, I don't understand science. So how do we explain what you know, what the veterinarian, the gentle doctor knows, and put the consumer at ease?
Well, to me, the main purpose really of being here with the gentle doctor is to help the consumer understand that there's a veterinarian involved, whether we're talking about antibiotics being used, how animals are raised and housed and that sort of thing. The general doctor is there on watch so that they can have confidence in the food supply.
And why doesn't it resonate that the highest input that any livestock producer could have is antibiotics? There's
as far as it costs,
no ingredient.
Right.
Why would I, as a livestock producer, use 1 ounce more than I absolutely had to because of the cost?
Sure. Well, and that's exactly right. That's why I said earlier that they use these products strategically and only if they need them, because they are costly, and they're going to consult with their veterinarian and make sure that it's needed. Most farmers have a set of prescriptions laid out already so they know when to use what, for how long, and that sort of thing, because these inputs are very expensive.
We continually see numbers, and I don't know that they're accurate, but we see them, estimates of upwards of 70–80% of all antibiotics produced are fed to livestock. How do you respond?
Well, those numbers are just plain wrong. I've looked at them, and they actually double counted a number of products. They counted products that aren't even approved for animals. So if you look at the more reliable source, which is the companies that produce those products, they show that only about 17% of all antibiotics produced are used in livestock, and then a small percentage of those are used for, quote, growth promoting. The most of them are for preventing disease and treating illnesses.
And I think one thing that we continually forget about is if we use the number, let's use a cowboy arithmetic, 20%, because 17 is kind of hard to do the math.
It's a big number.
So 20% of the antibiotics produced fed to livestock. We produce 9 billion individual animals in the United States each year. We only have 310 million people. So really, the big picture is that 80% of the antibiotics produced in this country go to people. And when you divide it out on a per capita basis, antibiotics used by people is quite a bit.
Well, certainly it is a lot, and I don't have a lot of details on what it's used for in people, but if you do the math as far as every pound of meat produced and consumed in the U.S., it's less than a sprinkle of antibiotics, it looks like, is being used to raise a safe and wholesome product.
We've had a case study. Denmark, some of the European countries have eliminated the tool of antibiotics in food animal production. What have we learned from that?
Well, what I've learned looking carefully at the Danish data, which I've been watching since 2004, is, and you can see very clearly that when the growth promoting and preventive uses were banned, then the number of animals that had to be treated doubled. There was actually a 100% increase in the amount of antibiotics used to treat animals. That happened in Denmark, and a recent report from the Netherlands has showed the same thing. So what we thought was just growth promoting was apparently preventing a lot of illness. They also had to shift, as we expect, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. They've had to shift to a different type of antibiotic and to treat these sick animals, and those antibiotics are more similar to the humankind, so they haven't seemed to reduce the public health risk at all.
It once again comes back to something that we talk about often in food production, the emotion of the unknown, or the science from the licensed, educated professional like Dr. Scott Hurd, or the time-honored profession of the gentle doctor. It's up to you as a parent, as a consumer, to make these decisions based upon what's best for your family, based upon the science from tremendous institutions like Iowa State University, rather than the rhetoric of an organization that wants to control your food choices. Thank you, Dr. Scott Hurd. I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
I'm Trent Luce. Thanks for joining us in Ames, Iowa at Iowa State University.